It's wonderful to be back at JLF, an honor and a delight as always. And thank you, Manisha, thank you, Sanjoy, and thank you all the panelists for being here. And I think let's hit the ground running because we need books, we have to sell books, right? And I'll just, whenever I'm on a panel, I always start by saying one thing, that there are the two most pressing issues that humanity need to grapple with. One is reading more books. We need to be writing more books, reading more books, because that's what will change all of us. And the other is the environmental thing. So I always carry my own bottle. So I always urge everyone to carry refillable bottles, and it's delightful. It's a delight. I've been a travel writer, and I've been to hotels all over, and they don't do one simple thing, is have a RO filter in the lobby, and the Clark's Amer has one, right? And even last year, I was refilling this bottle every time I would come down, refill it, and go back, and I didn't use a single plastic bottle. So I think that's something that we all need to do. So back to the topic, and I think we are all here to sell books, and I will start with my pet peeve, is the publishing industry needs a little scolding, because a session like this, we should be having like queues outside, because everyone's complaining, oh, books aren't selling. People aren't reading, right? Authors say, oh, our books aren't selling, we aren't making enough money. Publishers say, oh, we don't have money to invest in marketing, because obviously books will not sell. But they need marketing advice, they need to be here. So I hope they tune into the recording later. Yeah. Yes. So, yeah. So, how many of you are authors in this room? Okay. And how many of you are publishers here in this room? How many of you want to sell more books? All right. So, we're going to divide this session into, I would say, at three levels. One is, let's talk about how to expand readership in society. Right? Because if more people are not reading, we won't have a market to cater to, right? Secondly, we'll talk about specifics about how we can market books, including author branding, specific strategies that work. And number three, who will do it? Because that's the other thing that always, authors say, oh, I've written my book, who's going to market me? Publishers say, oh, we published the book, oh, we can't market it, right? So I think I'll ask all the panelists, in your opinion, I'm assuming that everybody in this room, including the stage, we all love books, we all love to read, right? But how do we get more people to read, right? So, Pragya, let's start with you.
Am I audible? Yes. Okay, great. Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And you're absolutely right. This is such an important conversation. It's an elephant in the room in most cases, because we discuss books, we discuss quality of writing and everything, but we don't discuss how we get them out there. And in fact, oftentimes I've felt that marketing is considered to be a bad word when publishers and writers are having conversations, but obviously it is the crux of the matter. When we talk about, I'd perhaps like to begin with making a very simple distinction about social media marketing. For most people sitting on this panel, this might be very intuitive, but I think a lot of authors and publishers need to kind of have a better sense of this. What do we exactly mean when we mean social media marketing? You can target new readers. You asked about new readership. You can target new readers by running ads. These ads can be on YouTube Shorts, they can be on Amazon, which is a very good platform for it. They can be Google ads, they can be on Facebook, etc. Ads, of course, if they're targeted well, they don't cost much, can reach out to audiences directly for sales. And you can have a simple button that says buy from here. So that's a sort of direct marketing tool that is available to us, right? And of course, how you phrase your ad and so on, the creative copy will determine if someone is tempted to click, but you can clearly demarcate new audiences. Say you feel like this book would be interesting for 18 to 20-year-olds in Jaipur, but they're not getting to hear of this book because the media pages are not covering this book and so on. You can target them. The second is a more indirect way of marketing, which is using social media platforms to create content around the book and to create content around the larger sort of ideas and vision and journey of the writer. Now, a lot of times you might not understand what the ROI for that is, But in the medium to long run, it has and can have, if done well, excellent payoffs. Because what you start doing is not just converting for sales, but there are people who start following you, people who become your community, people who are your captive audience. Even if you have 500 engaged followers, that's like having 500 people in a room who you can talk to about something and get them to buy your book, see your point of view, talk about you. But that needs some time. So if you are going to, if your book is releasing 5 days from today and you have just woken up to the fact that you need to do marketing, that's probably not going to have a payoff. But for your next book and the book after that, you're going to by then have a community that's always interested in what you have to say, and you will need marketing lesser and lesser over time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is one of the things that we were having a conversation the other day at another festival on the panel. I said, what is, in today's day and age, what is marketing? It is content marketing. What is content? Content are stories. What do publishers and authors do? Write stories. The books are full of stories. Take extracts out of them, and I totally agree with you. Build profiles of authors. So author branding is so important. We'll come to that later in the conversation, because like look at a Shah Rukh Khan, right? Even when his movie flops, because it's a Shah Rukh Khan movie, on the opening weekend they make a profit. In fact, they make a profit even before the movie is released, because he's a superstar. And same way with authors. If they build an engaged audience, even before the book is judged by the market, the book would have sold enough numbers.
So that's what I always say. Who you are speaks louder than what you do. And how do you build that who you are is what is the message? What is it that you want to convey to your readers? And to do that, you have to continuously establish those touch points and build a community. As Pragya said, building a community goes a long way, and that's what the readers want.
And sorry, one quick point is also, I think there is, for new readers, they might judge a book by a cover. So we were marketing a book which is historical nonfiction, right? And on social media. Now, there might be any number of people who would have seen that book, read the bio of the author, who's been to any number of Ivy Leagues and has any number of PhDs, and said, this is not a book for me. But when you start building content where you basically take the essence of that book, because it's talking about pivotal moments in contemporary modern history in India, things that are hotly debated today politically, and you present them without oversimplifying them. You present them to people on social media saying that this is what this book is talking about. Pick out the anecdotes, pick out, the questions. We found the returns were enormous for us. It was very encouraging.
Connecting emotionally with the readers, and that's what readers are these days, not merely consumers of content. They have to be touched by it, and they have to resonate with what you're trying to tell them.
So पांडे जी, अब पहले तो ये बताइए, और लोगों को हम कैसे अंदर लाएं किताबें पढ़ने के लिए?
नमस्कार, बस आप सभी को जो यहाँ हैं और पैनल में जो लोग हैं, मनीषा जी और नमिता जी और संजय को धन्यवाद, JLF और जयपुर बुकमार्क को भी धन्यवाद बुलाने के लिए। और हिंदी में मैं अपनी बात करूँगा, आप अंग्रेज़ी में करोगे। 2-3 बातें जो अभी तक हुई हैं। सबसे पहली बात यह है कि प्रकाशक अपने लेखकों के साथ विभेद क्यों करता है, ये एक मेरा सवाल है। अभी एक बात हुई, आपने भी कहा शाहरुख खान के नाम से किताबें बिक जाती हैं, लेकिन आपके लिए बतौर प्रकाशक मुझे लगता है सारे लेखक एक जैसे होने चाहिए। अभी संसारा की बात हुई और 40,000 कापियाँ बिक चुकी हैं। मैं प्रतिदिन एक किताब पे अपनी राय रखता हूँ, तो उस किताब को पढ़ता हूँ। अंग्रेज़ी हिंदी दोनों की होती हैं, और अंग्रेज़ी का बड़े से बड़ा लेखक और हिंदी का भी बड़े से बड़ा लेखक, जिनको मैं साहित्यिक तौर पे आप जिनको बड़ा कह सकते हैं, उन सब की किताबें मेरे पास आती हैं। लेकिन संसारा को मैंने नहीं देखा है। 40,000 प्रतियां बिक चुकी हैं। अगर दिल्ली के एक बड़े चैनल में हर दिन किताबों पर बात करने वाले किसी आदमी के पास आप अपनी किताब नहीं पहुंचा सकते, तो क्या आप आम पाठकों तक जो इस किताब को पढ़ना चाहता हो कैसे पहुंचाएंगे? मेरा सवाल आप सभी से।
Yeah, to sum up, basically, why should publishers be differentiating between authors, between superstars and the upcoming authors, right? And how do you expose new authors? How do you expose new works? That's the question we need to be asking ourselves. So, Saksham, how do we expand readership, not of Samsara, but of all the books?
You know, I really like what Heath said. So he'd mentioned how, I mean, how can we expect to expand readership when we haven't been able to fill the existing market? You know, we need to work on our distribution. We need to get the book into the hands of these readers, usually one amongst 100 if we just sort of pick randomly in the country, right? And really the answer is, as has been said earlier, content marketing, right? The algorithm is powerful. It's a lot more powerful than any large billboard because more so than ads, if I may say, right? And ads work perfectly. And Pragya, you mentioned very keenly that we can target the exact age group and gender and location. And if there's a particular book that is relevant for that place, we can reach them. But the algorithm organically works in crazier ways, even better ways, right? So for example, you talked about what is a potential point of content for an author, right? Because oftentimes authors may not be experts, especially in the case of fiction, right? In a particular field. So what do you talk about when you're trying to create a series of reels, if you really get down to the brass tacks of it? And one of the things is past experiences, memories, the journey of it all, trying to story tell through the entire process. I took 10 years to write this novel. I wrote it 8 times, right? And I talked about that in a short reel, and my algorithm and my page just completely transformed. And I still don't know to date what worked, but slowly over time I figured it out. You know, it's been 1.5 years. It's been a hell of a ride since this book has come out. And you'd think that as an ex-commissioning editor at Penguin, I'd know what to do when my book was launched in terms of marketing. And I only figured it out 6 months ago. When I was invited for a TEDx talk, and I met with 2 other marketers who had been invited, who had gone from 0 followers to 500,000 in a matter of 2 months. So they guided me, and I started applying the same strategies for my book to make sure that my books and the people that I was working with were in the top 1,000 of Amazon. The top 1,000 of Amazon overall books category is truly the best way to understand the sales and how the book is doing, right? That is perhaps one of the best ways to judge the sales of a book. And if you get into the top 100, that's roughly 25 books a day or more. And visibility and content marketing does that. So there's this guy called Satvik Soni on Instagram, and he makes these short 1-minute reels. And the hook points or the hook lines or the first sentence that is often the pivotal sentence in this 100-word script of a reel, right, that you say out in less than a minute on Instagram, is usually a quote from a classic book. And he's managed to, in less than a month or so, I was analyzing his stats and I even met him and I tried to commission him for a book. But he's managed to, in less than a month, gather over 200,000 people that love classics, truly read it like he does. He's got a sophisticated audience, and that is the power of content marketing. And I think if we do that, as publishers, right, we can do the basic first, which is fill that gap in the market, and then that in itself, I think, pushes readership across the country.
So, Atika, you have clients as publishers and authors, right? If you have to give, when you give them advice, if you had to give them 1, 2, 3, just do these 3 things and do them very well, what would you advise them?
So, I always say again that we are in a day and age where building communities has become the most important thing. And how do you do that? Because usually when an author or a publisher comes to us with a book, they want reviews, reviews, reviews. Now, we always tell them that reviews take a lot of time, and we don't have time. People don't have time. They are short on time. They are short on patience. So at the same time, all the book spaces in our publications have considerably shrunk. Unfortunately, many mainlines, dailies don't even give any space for books. So we take them to their readers. We always advise, that you connect with your readers. First of all, an author or a publisher should know, as Saksham was saying, that if his target audience is with this content creator on Instagram who he's connecting with, then first step is to identify those. Who's your target audience? Who are your readers? And then we give them the touch points where you connect with the readers, so that they, you foster a kind of a relationship, a trust in your readers, and that is what then those become your marketers. You have every reader is your marketer, and by word of mouth, by recommendations, you will build a community, and it's about rallying a community of readers, which will eventually lead to sales. So we are not there to just it's not a transactional way where you're just putting your book out there and you want sales, or you have to, or you feel very it's a boost to your ego that Hindustan Times has reviewed your book. It goes beyond that. It is about connecting with your readers on a daily basis, and customizing your content, even if you are on Instagram or on social media, different channels. It's how do you customize it where the readers relate to what you're trying to say, and again, it's and you form that community, and that community is your strength.
Ajay, I mean, I just want to say that, guys, books are a hard sell. A book costs more than a Netflix subscription today, right? And the basic rule of marketing that I was told by the head of sales at Penguin, he said that make sure you get everyone in your target audience first before you try and branch out, right? And if we look at what we're doing here, which is brainstorming a larger overall marketing plan for the industry of books, in order to see, you asked, how can we increase readership? I think the answer is, let's not look at increasing readership, let's look at filling that gap, and I think that's the first thing, filling that target audience, and it takes out from there.
Well, I agree with you, because even a bestseller has actually just touched the tip of the iceberg amongst their own target audience, right? Because if you sell 20,000 books, okay, you are a super bestseller by many standards, right? But 20,000 books out of a potential 2 million readers of your books, that's nothing, right? And so Panditji, we keep talking about digital and social media marketing, but is it any different in the non-English speaking world?
हिंदी और दूसरी भारतीय भाषाओं के लेखकों के साथ और प्रकाशकों के साथ एक समस्या मुझे लगती है। दिल्ली सेंट्रिक जो प्रकाशक हैं उनको तो पता है कि मार्केटिंग क्या होती है और कैसे प्रचार किया जाए, लेकिन दिल्ली से बाहर के जो प्रकाशक हैं वो अपनी किताबें ग्राहकों, पाठकों तक तो पहुंचाना दूर, समीक्षकों तक, और या उनको माध्यम ही नहीं पता है कि हम कैसे ये किताबें पहुंचाएं। तो एक समस्या ये है। दूसरी समस्या मुझे लगता है कि हम अभी बाहर इस कमरे से बाहर बात कर रहे थे, बुक स्टोर्स नहीं हैं, किताबें खरीदने के लिए कोई कहाँ जाए। अगर आज हम डेली कंज्यूमर की चीज़ें, चाय पीनी है तो हम निकलेंगे बाहर, 100 मीटर की रेडियस में हमें किसी भी जगह, दिल्ली जैसी जगह पे भी चाय मिल जाती है, लेकिन दिल्ली जैसी जगह पे आपको एक बुक स्टोर में जाने के लिए 10 किलोमीटर, 5 किलोमीटर, 15 किलोमीटर की यात्रा करनी पड़ती है। गाँवों में और दूसरे शहरों में ये और भी ज़्यादा मुश्किल भरा काम है। मैं बनारस का रहने वाला हूँ, तो बनारस जैसी जगह पे चंदौली से मतलब 40-50 किलोमीटर से पहले कोई बुक स्टोर नहीं है। तो ये एक दूसरी समस्या है। तीसरी, मुझे लगता है सुबह के समय अखबार के साथ कुछ किताबें आती थी, और अब प्रकाशकों के पास इतना बजट नहीं है कि वो अखबारों के माध्यम से या दूसरे माध्यमों से पहुंच सकें। तो सोशल मीडिया का जो उपयोग है वो हिंदी भाषी या हिंदी भाषी लेखक, अंग्रेजी के लेखकों को छोड़ के दूसरी भाषाओं के लेखकों को अभी भी इस माध्यम के बारे में नहीं पता है कि ये इतना महत्वपूर्ण टूल है। यहाँ पे मैं तुलसीदास को ज़रूर याद करना चाहूँगा कि उन्होंने जब रामचरितमानस लिखी आज के 600 साल पहले, तो उनको मार्केटिंग का पता था उस ज़माने में कि इस किताब को कैसे बेचा जाए। तो रामचरितमानस लोगों तक पहुँचे कैसे, इसके लिए उन्होंने रामलीलाएं शुरू कराई। तो जो रामलीला थी ये मार्केटिंग टूल था, जो आज भी हमारा लेखक हिंदी और दूसरी भाषाओं के, भारतीय भाषाओं के लेखकों की बात करूं, लेखक के साथ एक सबसे बड़ी समस्या ये है कि उसे लगता है कि वो कोई बहुत महत्वपूर्ण व्यक्ति है जिसने कुछ ऐसा सृजित किया है जिससे यह संसार बदल जाएगा। उसको लगता है मैं बाजार में क्यों जाऊं, मैं क्यों बेचूं, ये तो प्रकाशक की जिम्मेदारी है। एक तो उसने पैसा भी नहीं दिया, ऊपर से बेचने के लिए हमको कह रहा है मैं अपनी किताब क्यों बेचूं। तो ये समस्या अंग्रेजी के अलावा मुझे लगता है आप लोगों को इसको एड्रेस करना चाहिए।
So just to recap, we are talking. Pandey is making a few points that those based outside the big cities still don't have a complete grip on what modern marketing methods are, right? So that's one. Second is, where are the bookstores, right? And I think here we are talking about a little chicken and egg situation, because one is of course the demand and supply, and the second is not an elephant but a herd of elephants in the room called Amazon. And it's been proven that in a country like France, where they banned Amazon from discounting books and also from subsidizing delivery rates, right? Bookstores that were floundering have suddenly started thriving. More bookstores have come up because France as a nation realizes the value of bookstores to their culture. And an Amazon, in my opinion, caters to an existing demand, but bookstores create demand. And that's why, and then with the example of Tulsidas marketing his Ramcharitramanas through Ramlila, and that is why bookstores, and that's what we're going to be talking at 10 o'clock tomorrow, so please come back. And we're going to be talking about bookstores and the alchemy of bookselling, and that's why experiential bookstores, like what we are attempting to create, become extremely important, and so are events like these, because this is like what kind of creates interest and curiosity about authors and the books they're writing. So I think these are extremely valid points. Thank you so much. The question now is, and I'll start with Pragya, all these ideas are great, but who's going to do it? Right? Everybody says, oh, will the publisher do it? Will the author do it? Will Atika do it? Or who's going to pay Atika's bills? Right? Stuff like that. So that's the challenge. It's easier said than done. Build a community, right? You can set up a Facebook, like I used to joke about this, like when social media was invented, anybody who could open a social media account says, I'm a social media expert, and digital agency just came up left, right, center. Even today, most digital agencies you go to, their pitch to you is, oh, we'll do so many reels and we'll do so many posts, but that's okay, but what's going to be the content? Right, the whole strategy, the whole strategically, tactically, who's going to put in the labor, who's going to pay for that labor, right? So let's talk about who's going to do it.
So I'm just going to talk about this from a personal standpoint. When we have either publishers or authors approaching us to market their books by content marketing, one of the things that I struggle to explain to them is that there is a serious, let's face it, there is a serious dearth of people who can create good content. Somebody having a team that can read historical nonfiction, that can read historical fiction, that can read a book on parenting, that can, a book on business, and still do justice, find the right tone, find the right lehza to present it, and make sure that the content is friendly, but it doesn't take away from the seriousness of the book and the work of the author. That is a very, very tall ask. And typically, if you have a team that does that, we do, that team is a pricey team, because that's just what talent is like, particularly in the English language. There aren't that many people. We have a small team for Hindi, and frankly, it's much easier to hire for Hindi. There are brilliant people out there not getting enough jobs there, but it's harder for English language. That's at least in our experience. That's what we found. Now, what that does is it takes, and one has to cost it. I can't do this out of pocket. I have to pay salaries. But one of the things that I've been trying to encourage publishers and writers to do, and somehow there's been very little take up for it, because this I'm willing to do for free or for very, very little money. I to say that, listen, we'll come, we'll hold workshops for you all right? We are not going to charge anything. When authors come to me whose work I love and they're like, look, I can't pay this amount, I'm like, listen, I'll take you through 3 workshops, okay? Don't pay me a penny. I love what you've done, but I can't do this, in terms of it won't work for my company. I have to be responsible in a financial and fiduciary sense. But somehow there's this idea कि नहीं आप कर दें आप कम में कर दें बस, but हमें नहीं सीखना, हमें engage नहीं करना है, नहीं हमें. And that is I'm very flummoxed by that, because I'm like, look, this is not rocket science. Whatever we are doing, I can teach you in like 20 minutes, okay, maybe 3 hours, but you'll know it and you know your content. So you are the best person, instead of me hiring a team who's going to read all of this and try to crack it. If you can combine your knowledge of your own subject with the wherewithal and know-how of how algorithms work, how this platform works, then you're home. And then by trial and error, you'll learn. You'll be on your way. But I have to tell you, like I said, I've found very, very little take up for it, because I feel that it takes a lot of patience. A lot of people come to social media today thinking that it's a magic bullet. And it's not. Like with everything, there's enormous amount of potential, but it's not a magic bullet. It needs consistency, it needs a lot of hard work, it needs a lot of engagement. And I feel like that deters people. As with new things, they're always like, mujhe is sab mein nahi padna hai. There's also, like you said, like sir said earlier, there's also a sense of ये भद्दा काम है. मैं बाजार में, वो साहिर की एक पोइट्री थी, मैं वो जो कलाम तेरे लिए लिखा वो बाजार में ले आया हूँ. So there's a lot of baggage associated with marketing in bazaar, and I think those things are keeping people down, to my mind. And again, I say this to any publisher and authors here, we'll happily conduct free workshops for you if you think they're of any value.
I think I'm going to write a book, and anybody's free to steal the idea if they can write it faster than me. 101 reasons why I, as your publisher, will not market your book or cannot market your book. So, Saksham, who done it for you?
You really, that's a good question. Like, who needs to do this, right? And this is not a cop-out. Really, it needs to be a collaborative effort. During my time at Penguin, rarely did we come across a scenario where the author was equally enthused about marketing their book as much as the publisher. And, publishers, they are running businesses, so they have certain models, and it's very difficult amongst the sea of books to be able to give special attention to each. And therefore, it's very important. So I remember during my time at Penguin, we used to have this little document, and as editors, we would send it out to authors that helped them get started on their their pre-order campaigns, their marketing activities before the launch. And the number of times I sent it out to individuals, it got drilled into my head. And when it came time for Samsara, I was obviously doing a lot of these things, and it made a difference. But what I'm trying to say is that more often than not, what happens is that there is, it's not balanced. There's either more effort from the author's end, or there's more effort from the publisher's end, where the author's sitting back and probably working on their next book, which is important, sure, but you also have to be involved in this. And from what I've been told by peers, friends, that outside, right, there's no narrative anymore about, publishers shying away from asking authors to contribute in the marketing significantly. It's assumed that authors have to somehow lend an audience or be able to show that they'll be able to make the efforts to find that audience as well. And when I talk to authors and I tell them, hey, you'll have to be heavily involved in the marketing of the book, I don't get the best of responses at times, and it's beyond me, to be very honest. And I think there is a magic wand to it, though, Pragya. Social media, there are particular ways where you don't have to be engaging regularly, you don't have to be consistent at all. Quality can be whatever. And you get massive views. I did this, right? So after this TEDx talk that I talked about last time I was talking, where I met certain content creators that have seen this massive rise in short spans of time, I decided to try it out myself. So I created 2 side hidden Instagram pages, right? One with a niche on mythology, because my book is a mythological fantasy fiction, and it's been dubbed as India's answer to Harry Potter by Krishna Uday Shankar. So mythology was one, and the niceties of Harry Potter was another. And these were the 2 niches that I created. And what they said is, grab a podcast, grab a condenser mic. It costs $2,000, right? Sit in a well-lit room, get a small collar mic, and write scripts with hook points, right? Hook lines that gather or catch the attention, stop people from scrolling, and sum up that point entirely in those 100 words. And you can pretend as if you're in a conversation with someone, you can do whatever, but the idea is, I mean, I eventually got around to speaking and looking straight into the camera, but the idea is you talk about this content and you mix it up with editing. And, you know, I did this over a period of 10, I created 10 of these and I started posting them, and I was appalled by the results.